Hello everyone, it is Lindsay and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be soft launching a new video series that I just want to see if you guys are interested in. I'm super interested in it. I think it sounds like fun, but it's a lot of work. So I want to make sure you guys are interested, into it, gonna watch it, gonna keep up with it before I put in 3 months worth of work. So my idea for this is every quarter, so like every 3 months or so, we are going to go over all of the new rights reports or book release announcements for the middle grade and YA fiction. And then from there, we're going to analyze them. We're going to get in deep. We're going to study them. We're going to discuss and we're going to find trends and we're going to see what conclusions we can draw about publishing trends at the moment. Of course, I'm going to be making stats because I'm a stats nerd. So I'm going to be looking at YA versus middle grade releases, also what release season. I'm going to be looking at genres and we're going to break down those genres even more. I'm going to be looking at identities. I'm going to be looking at formats. So graphic novel versus prose. I want to explore it all. The point of this is that I can help you and me really keep abreast of what is happening in traditional publishing so we know how to best market and pitch our novels, maybe even come up with ideas and make sure that we know the market, we know agents, we know agencies. I hope that sounds fun to you guys. I'm super nosy, so it sounds fun to me. A few notes before starting. Number one, all of these rights reports are open to the public. You can just go to Publishers Weekly and sign up for their middle grade and YA or children's newsletter. I don't know what it's called, but you'll find it really easy with a Google search. I'm only going to be covering YA and middle grade fiction because that's what I'm more interested in. Some of my math, some of my statistics might be wrong. If you notice, mind your business. I will be looking at identities and marginalities. I will, however, not be policing them. Unless the author has been open about their identity, I'm not going to count it. And lastly, this took a heck of a lot of work, so if you wouldn't mind liking, that would be great. And subscribe if you haven't already. So to give you a little taste test of what this will look like in long format, I'm just going to be doing the month of August. And I think what I'm going to do is we are going to go over all of the stats for all of the releases. And then I'm actually going to take you in and we're going to read them together. And we're going to kind of go over the publishing houses, the agencies. You can see how people are pitching their books and their announcements. Hopefully that's helpful to you. So yeah, let's just get started. Jumping right into it, there were 33 deals announced in the month of August. I am assuming most of these were bought around April, give or take a month or so. Usually you announce within 4 to 6 months after the book is bought. One of the 33 said that it was at auction, and one of the 33 said it was for a 6-figure deal. Let's go ahead and look at the YA amount of deals versus the middle grade amount of deals. They're just about evenly split, which makes a lot of sense to me. Now let's look at the deals and see how many of them were repeat authors or how many of them were debuts. There were a lot more repeat authors than debuts, which actually was a little bit surprising to me. Maybe I shouldn't have been surprised by this, but I was. I know my sample size here is small as I'm only doing 1 month of announcements, but I'm wondering if this is like indicative of the Barnes & Noble crunch to kind of stop taking as many middle grades, so they are not signing as many debuts as they are releases, or maybe this was just like totally skewed data. The YA debut portion being a little bit bigger does make sense because YA kind of thrives on the new it girl, so the YA debut being a little bit bigger doesn't surprise me, but I was a little surprised that there were so few debut announcements. Let's talk about book format really quickly. So this is a book written in prose versus graphic novels, and then for YA we do have a split where there were novels in verse. Prose are always going to be the biggest portion here, but I do think that it's kind of exciting to see that the graphic novel section of middle grade is growing. I know I have a couple subscribers who are middle grade graphic novelists, so that's very exciting for you right now. It's your time to shine. Okay, now looking at release season. I made this needlessly complicated by making one a pie graph and one a bar graph, but like it's fine. I was a little surprised that novels that were being announced right now are still coming out in 2024, especially with middle grade. I think this is really interesting. Over half of the deal announcements are still coming out in 2024 for middle grade, but that can also not be said for YA. I'm not really sure the reasons behind it. It makes me wonder if YA marketing just wants to do more, or if it takes time to move through the machine of publishing when you publish YA versus middle grade. But I think that's pretty interesting. It's pretty cool to note that if you sold a middle grade book like right now, it could still come out next year, whereas if you sold a YA book, it looks more like you're going to be waiting 1.5 years, 2 years to get it released. I'm also wondering if that has something to do with like saturation levels, because everyone always says like YA is so saturated, and I'm wondering if maybe the longer time between announcement and release has something to do with that, versus with middle grade where it's just like, oh, well, we only need as much time as it takes to produce, like to actually like edit and print the novel, versus YA, it seems like you're almost on a waiting list. I don't know. Now let's take a look at genre. First, taking a gander at middle grade, it's not a surprise that fantasy is like the biggest seller, both in middle grade and YA. Also, mystery being big. I would not be surprised to see that pop up more and more the more I do this video, because middle grade mystery has always kind of been a staple since Nancy Drew, the Hardy Boys, Bobbsey Twins, all that stuff. You'll always see a good amount of mystery sales because of that legacy. And then in YA, I'm seeing a large amount of fantasy and a pretty good size of romance as well. Because fantasy encompasses so many subgenres, I decided to break that fantasy piece down just a little bit more. So books I would consider romantasy, there were 3 of. Post-apocalyptic was 1. I really honestly feel like that was a bit of an outlier because we're not seeing as many of those recently, but who knows? Maybe it's something we'll see as a new trend. Contemporary fantasy is 4 and high fantasy is 0. Was surprised there was no high fantasy, but contemporary fantasy not as shocked by. Contemporary fantasy is kind of like the new term that people are using instead of paranormal, because I feel like paranormal is like tainted with this idea of like witches, vampires, werewolves, whereas contemporary fantasy can have those things, but it just means it's a low fantasy set in our world. There's just something magical about it. And I'm gonna end off the stats section by talking about author identities. First of all, I didn't even make a graph for this because there was no point. Only 1 out of the 33 books announced were by or about disabled children or by a disabled author. I have this graph here showing the amount of marginalized authors just overall between middle grade and YA. There are a lot of interesting conversations going on about how you can't break into publishing right now unless you have some kind of marginalized identity. So Chauncey said it best. He was like, ugh! Here's proof that that is not true according to my data. Let's go ahead and look at gender. Children's publishing in general is a very female dominated industry, so I don't find that these stats are that surprising. I do think it's interesting that there are more male authors publishing in middle grade than YA. There is a really interesting discussion that I'm not going to have here, that male authors either, they like kind of skip YA, right? Like they either write in middle grade, they write an adult, and then teen boys either read middle grade or adult. I think we see kind of the inklings of that in these stats here. Next, I have stats for the author sexuality. A little sad, I'm not gonna lie. I found that a little bit disheartening. I'm not shocked though that there are more queer authors writing about YA than middle grade, just because I feel like when you're a teenager, that's when you're probably gonna start exploring that more so than middle grade, but yeah. And then we have middle grade and YA racial identity split here. You can see it's pretty much the same situation as with the sexuality, where we have a large amount of the non-marginalized authors publishing and a small amount of marginalized racial identities publishing. In conclusion, what can we glean from all of these stats? Well, I would say if you are a non-marginalized girly writing YA, romance, or fantasy, this is your time. Honestly, when is it not your time? All right, now let's get into the actual rights reports and look at each one individually and see what we can glean from it. I don't know who I thought I was going to be reading 33 rights reports to you and analyzing each and every one, especially when this is just the test run. By the time I have the full 3 months of data, that'll be like 90 rights reports. I'm just gonna be skipping over some of these, and I'm gonna read the ones that I think are the most of note, the most interesting, or the ones I'm most excited about. I highly recommend subscribing to Publishers Weekly so you can see them all. If I could talk about them all, I would, but we just don't have the time. Okay, the first one we have is by Christy Choi at Athenium. That's a Simon & Schuster house. They got world rights to Prince of Fortune, a romantic queer YA fantasy debut. I'm not gonna lie, I saw this white part right here and I thought it said white queer YA fantasy, and I was like, bold move. It's pitched as red, white, and royal blue meets a darker shade of magic. These are very interesting comps because both of these are adult comps. It worked for her though. The book follows a relationship between a shy prince and an aristocrat. They are going on an adventurous romance in the midst of a looming war. Jim McCarthy is a really good, well-known agent, so that would definitely be a dude to take a note. Also, DG and B is a great agency. Next, we have a book coming out from Bloomsbury. Now, Bloomsbury is a UK publisher. The Bone Shepherds is a post-apocalyptic YA fantasy pitched as the fifth wave meets New Dragon City with a nod to Cormac McCarthy's The Road. Very interesting so far. Post-apocalyptic is not something that's super poppin', so exciting to see. It follows two unlikely 16-year-old heroes on separate journeys through a ravaged landscape as they fight for survival against lawless raiders and the legendary monsters that brought the world to its knees. I mean, that sounds pretty cool. I don't recognize the agent or the agency, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't know every single one of them. Now we have a sale from Aladdin. Aladdin's a big five. That's Simon & Schuster. This is a graphic novel series by a husband and wife duo. 11-year-old Molly makes a new friend, an 800-pound scaredy bear, and the two become fast friends. Daniel Lazar is a really good agent, and Writer's House is a massive agency. The next one is a middle grade fantasy adventure by Putnam. Putnam is Penguin, I'm quite sure, pitched as Jurassic Park meets Once There Was, a middle grade fantasy adventure set at a nature preserve for magical beasts where two girls find themselves on a wilderness expedition gone disastrously wrong. That actually sounds kind of cute to me. I do not recognize the agent or the agency. That doesn't mean, like, again, it's a bad thing. I don't recognize them. If you're wanting to query this agent or this agency, definitely do your research, you know. The middle grade anthology explores and celebrates South Asian American experiences through a collection of short stories, all connected through a local community center. How cute! Okay, we have a Soho teen book, which I'm quite sure is Penguin, The Lost Souls of Benzateen, and a 2-book deal. After 17-year-old Machi finds herself unable to speak following a traumatic friendship breakup, she prays to the Japanese goddess Benzateen for one thing, to become a vacuum cleaner robot, and accidentally invokes the deity who makes her mission to show Machi that life is worth living. Interesting. Great for Kelly. I'm so happy for her. KT Lit is a great literary agency. All right, our next deal is for Union Square and Co. This is what used to be Sterling, and they are a publishing house owned by Barnes & Noble. So not a big five, but definitely a major publisher. It's a debut YA, a coffee shop rom-com about two teens who begrudgingly fake a relationship online to save their failing Korean cafe. That sounds freaking adorable. We next have a book from Holiday House. Holiday House is like a mid-sized to small publisher. The Worst Perfect Moment, pitched as queer, The Good Place meets A Christmas Carol. When 16-year-old Tegan dies, she is shocked to discover her perfect heaven is a replica of the Jersey Shore motel where she spent the worst weekend of her life. So she and the snarky but cute teen angel responsible for the apparent mistake must tour Tegan's memories to uncover her true happiest moment. Caitlin Detweiler and Jill Greenberg Lit are great agents and agencies. Up next, we have a middle grade science fiction adventure in which a 13-year-old Jackson, along with a borrowed without permission temperamental ship, Rust Bucket, and his crew of misfit orphans salvage wrecks around the asteroid belt to make ends meet. I have heard of Harvey Klinger literary agency. Owl Hollow Press, I know that they take unagented submissions. I think that they're a small publisher. I don't even know if they're fully traditionally published. Like, I don't know where the line is between like indie press, vanity press, traditional publishing. I don't know if they just do digital books, like you might not have a print book if you go there. I don't know. And I don't know if they give advances either. So that is definitely something that you can look into if you are interested in the publisher. All right, we have a Candlewick Press book, a UK publisher. It has acquired Stuck Up and Stupid, a debut YA romance from a mother and daughter team. That's pretty cool. Also, the daughter's like a famous actress. It's a Pride and Prejudice retelling about the modern age. Cool. Alrighty, we have another Union Square Kids. This is another one of the Barnes & Noble houses. Bought the first 2 books in a middle grade graphic novel series, Pet Wizard. A glam, rock-loving middle schooler with the power to control pets, though he can only control the etc. of the animal kingdom: snakes, snapping turtles, hissing cockroaches. That's actually really cute. He will use his ability to help those in need, protect the vulnerable, and most importantly, impress his school crush, the dreamy star of the School musical. Jordan Hamsley sold English rights while at New Leaf Literary and now represents the author at Jabberwocky. I have heard of New Leaf Literary. I probably would suggest Jabberwocky over them, and that's my hot take of the video. Nancy Sisko at Knof has acquired North American rights to Tide Magic, The Many Faces of Ista Flit, and 2 more novels and a middle grade fantasy trilogy. Knof, I know, is Penguin Random House. In a world where magic rises and falls with the tides and everyone is born with a magical gift, Ista has the rare ability to look like anyone she's ever seen. She'll need that skill to get to the bottom of a mystery involving monsters, miscreants, and missing people. This one's really interesting. Nikki Garcia at Little Brown, which is a Hachette publisher, so Big Five, has acquired a historical novel by Fresh Prince of Bel-Air actress Karen Parsons, Blue Beach, about a girl whose life changes when a dead white debutante washes up on the shore of a black beach owned by her family. Interesting. Next we have Allison Romig at Delacorte. Delacorte is a Penguin Random House. Has bought Love Points to You by Alice Lynn, an LGBTQ plus YA contemporary romance that follows Linda, an artist with the skills and the drive to get into design school, but not the money, and her rich, arrogant classmate, Angela Wu. When Angela offers to hire her as a character designer for a Otome game, Linda discovers things she never knew about herself or her heart. Okay, this one I'm genuinely so excited for. This is from HarperCollins. They have acquired Broken Dolls, a middle grade horror novel by Bram Stoker finalist Ali Malinkano. When Kay, a girl with arithmetomania and selective mutism, moves upstate after her grandfather's death, she starts to lose her sister to a creepy doll who wants to turn Holly into a doll herself. And Kay must stop Holly's transformation because dolls never die. We have Allison Romig again at Delacorte. This is Hachette. Mystery James Digs Her Own Grave by Ali Russell. This is a middle grade story that follows 13-year-old Mystery, who was abandoned in a cemetery, raised in a funeral home, and can smell ghosts. When this was announced, everyone sent this to me because they were like, oh my gosh, it sounds like The Odds, like your books are best friends. I'm like, I know. When a priceless heirloom goes missing and her family's funeral home is in danger of closing, Mystery embarks on an adventure to clear Garcia Graves' good name. Honestly, this sounds so cute and very much so right up my alley. These last two, like 100% pre-ordering. Can't wait. Also, Andrea Brown Literary Agency, heard great things. I recognize this place right here. So Scholastic has acquired world rights to a middle grade historical novel by Steve Watkins about the wolf children from East Prussia who were orphaned and left homeless after the end of World War II. When 12-year-old Astra and her sister Sophie lose their mother while attempting to escape East Prussia, they're forced to embark on a dangerous journey and a year hiding in the forest with other orphaned children as they search for survival and life beyond. Kelly Sonak and Andrea Brownlet, again, are great agents and agencies. I hope you guys found this video enlightening or interesting or just kind of like tickled your stats bone. But I'm really excited for this video series, so I hope you guys are on board with me and you want to learn more about the trends in traditional publishing the way that I kind of do. So please, 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 like I actually really want your feedback. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there are any other stats you would like to see in these types of videos. The next one should be appearing in late November, early December. But if there is something else you would like to see added to this that you would like to see me track, please let me know. I really want to make this like collaborative. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't forget to pre-order The Odds. She's back here, but she's coming out in less than 2 weeks, which is just wild. So if you want to pre-order, I have pre-order links in my bio. Same with the Glass Witch. You can order her wherever books are sold. And I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!